If you've ever said, "We're not for sale, we'll deal with that when the time comes, the market will do what it does," you probably thought you were taking a clear strategic position. In reality, those phrases are escape hatches. They end conversations your board needs to have, and they quietly undermine your fiduciary responsibility. Today, we're going to unpack why smart, experienced bank CEOs get stuck there and what to say instead. And to be clear before we go any further, this isn't about selling your bank. This is about the difference between leading with clarity and hiding behind language that sounds strategic but isn't. I'm Kurt Knutson. I founded and led a community bank as CEO and chairman. I've navigated the strategic decisions you face every day: raising capital, building a strong shareholder base, developing talent, and growing a bank customers proudly called their bank. I've been in your seat through every phase of a bank's life cycle, and that perspective is what you'll hear every episode. After 4 decades in this business, I've learned something simple. There are 3 phrases that sound like strategy, but are really just ways to end conversations you don't know how to have. Until you see them for what they are, you can't move past them. Let's name them. Escape hatch number 1, it's out of our control. This shows up as the market will do what it does. We can't predict what buyers will pay. It's really up to forces bigger than us. And part of that's true. Markets move, rates change, buyers have their own motivations, regulators do what regulators do. But here's what you can control: your readiness, your positioning, your understanding of the 8 value drivers, your advisor relationships, your ability to evaluate opportunity when it appears. Remember episode 1, the leverage matrix? The difference between strategic command and on the clock isn't circumstances, it's preparation. Banks in both quadrants face the same market forces, the same rate environment, the same regulatory landscape. One is ready, the other is reacting. It's out of our control pretends you're powerless. You're not. You can't control when a buyer knocks, but you can control whether you're prepared when they do. Here's something from our own experience. For years, we built acquisition models. We ran call reports. We developed criteria for what we'd want to buy. That process taught us our own value. So when the conversation shifted from buying to potentially selling, we weren't starting from zero. That wasn't luck. That was preparation creating optionality. The first hatch says you're powerless. The second one says you have unlimited time. Escape hatch number 2, we'll figure it out when the time comes. This one feels reasonable. You're running a bank. There are plates spinning everywhere: competition, talent, credit, liquidity, cybersecurity, regulation. Who has the time for hypothetical future scenarios? Here's the problem. Time either builds leverage or it erodes it. Remember episode 4, the strategic window? There's a period when timing, readiness, and market conditions align, when your leverage is the strongest. That window doesn't wait for you to be ready. If preparation takes 6 to 12 months, aligning the board, building advisor relationships, understanding your value drivers, and the window opens tomorrow, you're not figuring it out when the time comes, you're scrambling. And scrambling means reacting instead of leading, accepting terms instead of setting them, taking what's offered instead of commanding what you're worth. We'll figure it out later assumes time will announce itself. It doesn't. Escape hatch number 3, we're not for sale. This is the one I hear most often, and it works because it ends the conversation. Board member asks about strategic options, we're not for sale. Shareholder asks about liquidity, we're not for sale. Even your own mind wonders about the future, we're not for sale. Conversation over. But here's what's really underneath that phrase: fear of being misunderstood. You worry that if you even learn about the process, build advisor relationships, understand your value, explore options, people will assume you've checked out. The board might misinterpret it, your team might panic, word might get out, so you avoid learning. I wrote about this directly. Learning about the sale process is a road not often traveled due to fear of being misunderstood. And that fear is real, and it keeps CEOs stuck. There's another issue. Asking an investment banker for guidance can feel like you're asking a barber if you need a haircut, so you don't ask. You stay in the dark because staying in the dark feels safer than being misunderstood. But here's what We're Not for Sale actually costs you. It costs you the ability to lead strategic conversations. It costs you the language to discuss optionality without signaling intent. It costs you the framework to evaluate opportunities objectively. And it costs you peace of mind. What if instead of "we're not for sale," you could say this: we're focused on the 8 value drivers that create the most optionality for us. We're building a bank that's strong enough to remain independent indefinitely and positioned to evaluate any opportunity from strength. That's not announcing a sale, that's leadership. And here's what I want you to understand. This isn't your fault. No one's ever taught you how to have these conversations. There's no course called "How to Talk to Your Board About Strategic Options Without Sounding Like You're Quitting." You've been alone with this. And when you're alone with something, you protect yourself however you can. When it's out of our control becomes "here's what we can control." When "we'll figure it out later" becomes "we're building readiness now." When "we're not for sale" becomes "we're building optionality," everything changes. Understanding creates clarity. Clarity creates confidence. Confidence creates control. And control creates value. The banks that command premiums aren't the ones that scramble. They're the ones that prepared and knew it. Here's how I think about it. Selling your bank can feel like you're standing naked in public. The goal is to be swimsuit ready at all times. Not because you're planning to sell, but because readiness gives you options, and options give you power. So here's what I want to leave you with. You have the permission to learn this. Permission to understand your value without announcing a sale. Permission to build advisor relationships without committing to a transaction. Permission to know where you stand even if you never move. The CEOs who stay stuck aren't less capable. They've just never given themselves permission to learn. And the uncertainty doesn't go away because you avoid it. The only question is whether you face it with escape hatches or with answers. So now you have permission. But where do you start? Next episode, I'll walk you through how to assess where your bank actually stands across the 8 value drivers in the leverage matrix and how to prioritize what matters most. Episode 15, How to Find Your Bank's Blind Spots Before It's Too Late. If you'd like a clearer sense of how positioned your bank is today, I've created the Community Bank Value Strategic Readiness Score. It's a brief 8-question diagnostic you can complete discreetly. You'll find it linked in the show notes. And remember, the best decisions come from knowing all your options.